watched the small human colony from his ship high above the planet. His scales shifted colors slightly, showing his confusion. The reptilian officer had observed hundreds of battles in his career with the Dominion, but this would be his first time watching humans fight. The mining colony below had only 200 people. Most were civilians who dug valuable minerals from the red dirt. 40 of them were soldiers trained to protect the others, had read the reports. Humans were new to space. They were soft creatures, full of emotions and weakness. They should be easy to defeat. The swarm was coming. 500 insect warriors flying through space in their bioships. They wanted the mining colony for themselves. They were strong, organized, and brutal, expected the humans to run away or surrender quickly. He pressed a button on his console and listened to the human radio signals. A man's voice came through, calm and steady. "This is Commander to all personnel. They will arrive in 2 hours. We have offered evacuation to all civilians. No one has accepted." His inner eyelids blinked in surprise. The civilians were staying. That made no sense. They would die. Another voice responded, a woman this time. "Captain here. Defense positions are ready. All traps are set. We're ready for them, Commander." "Good," said. "Remember what we're fighting for, our families, our home. Today we show them what it means to attack humans." Recorded everything. His job was to observe and learn. The Dominion wanted to know about these new creatures called humans. Were they worth befriending, worth fearing, worth ignoring? The ships landed like falling stars. Their warriors poured out, clicking and hissing. They moved like water flowing toward the colony buildings. Counted them. 500 against 40 soldiers. The math was simple. The humans would lose. But the humans didn't run. The first wave hit the outer defenses. Explosions erupted. The humans had buried mines everywhere. 20 died in seconds. The others kept coming, unbothered by their losses. That was normal. The swarm never cared about individual deaths. Then the shooting started. Human weapons cracked and boomed. They were loud, primitive, using chemical explosions to throw metal. Not elegant like plasma or lasers, but they worked. Warriors fell, their shells cracking, their bodies going still. Zoomed his camera closer. He watched a young human male at a between 2 buildings. The human's name tag said. He looked barely old enough to fight. His hands shook as he held his rifle. They came at him like a wave of death. Fired. 1 fell, 2, 3. He reloaded quickly, his fear turning into something else. Focus, determination. He kept firing. An hour passed. Was still there, still fighting. Bodies piled up in front of him. They couldn't get through. Every time they tried to rush him, he cut them down. He was bleeding from several cuts. His armor was cracked, but he didn't leave his position. 2 hours, 3, 4, couldn't believe what he was seeing. The young human should be dead or running. Instead, he fought like a machine that couldn't feel pain or fear anymore. His face showed no expression now, just cold determination. By the 6th hour, had killed 47 warriors by himself. His ammunition was almost gone. He was covered in blood, some his own, some from his enemies. The finally overwhelmed him, 3 warriors attacking at once. Fell, but even dying, he triggered one last mine. It killed all 3 of his attackers. Felt something strange in his chest. Was it respect? Fear? He didn't know. He had seen brave warriors before, but this was different. This human had fought past exhaustion, past injury, past any reasonable hope of survival. Why? He listened to the radio again. Commander's voice came through, rough with emotion. "Is down." He held the East Passage for 6 hours, 47 confirmed kills. He gave us time, he gave us hope. Don't let his sacrifice be meaningless. Make every shot count. The other humans responded, heard crying in some of their voices, but they kept fighting. If anything, they fought harder after losing their friend. Captain led a counterattack. She moved through the battlefield with 15 soldiers. They didn't fight like the who relied on numbers and instinct. They didn't fight like the who used careful tactics and superior technology. The humans fought with rage and purpose. They set traps that showed disturbing creativity. One group got lured into a building that the humans then collapsed. Another group was hit with burning fuel that stuck to their shells. The humans used everything around them as weapons. As night fell on the colony, the battle paused. Both sides needed rest, counted the losses. They had lost 180 warriors. The humans had lost 23 soldiers and 12 civilians. But they had reinforcements coming. 2,000 more warriors were on their way. The math was now impossible. Even if every human fought like they couldn't win. Watched Commander walk among his people. The human commander had a bandage on his head and walked with a limp. He stopped to talk to each person, civilian and soldier alike. He checked wounds. He gave encouragement. He moved bodies of the fallen with gentle hands and closed their eyes. "We sent a distress signal," told his people. "Help is coming, 3 days away. We need to hold for 3 days." A young civilian woman spoke up. Her name was, and she was a medic. "Commander, 3 days against 2,000. That's not possible." Looked at her with eyes that were both kind and hard as stone. "Possible doesn't matter. We hold because there's no other choice. We hold because this is our home. We hold because we're human and humans don't quit." The others nodded. No one suggested surrender. No one suggested running. They knew they would probably die. They accepted it and prepared to fight anyway. Sat back in his command chair, his tail twitching with unease. He had been wrong about humans. They weren't weak. They weren't ruled by emotion in the way he thought. Their emotions didn't make them fragile. Their emotions made them dangerous. He began his report to the Dominion. Initial observations of human combat behavior. Subject species displays irrational commitment to defensive positions. Individual human designated maintained position until death, achieving 47 kills. This defies standard survival programming. Hypothesis: humans possess psychological mechanism that overrides survival instinct. Threat level: unknown. Recommend continued observation. Pause, then added one more line. They fight as if death means nothing. This should not be possible, but it is. Below him, the humans prepared for another day of war, and realized he was watching something the galaxy had never seen before. The second wave of warriors arrived at dawn. Watched them land, 2,000 strong. The bioships covered the sky like a swarm of locusts. The humans should have no hope now. Any reasonable species would surrender. Commander sent a message to the commander, intercepted and translated it. "This is your last chance to leave peacefully. We have requested military support. A human warship is on its way. Leave now and no more blood needs to be spilled." The response came quickly, full of clicking laughter. "Weak mammals, your ship is 3 days away. You will all be dead by nightfall. Surrender now and we will make your deaths quick." His response was simple: no. Expected panic in the human colony. Instead, he saw organized preparation. The civilians weren't hiding. They were working. A man named the chief engineer was directing people to convert mining equipment into weapons. Massive drills became battering rams. Industrial lasers for cutting rock became weapons. Acid used to dissolve minerals became something to spray at enemies. A teenage girl named was working on the mining tunnels beneath the colony. She was barely old enough to be considered an adult by human standards. Watched her plant explosives throughout the entire underground network. She was turning the whole area into a trap. The medic was teaching civilians how to stop bleeding and treat burns. Even children who could barely walk were being moved to the deepest, safest areas. But older children, some only 12 or 13 years old, were learning to reload weapons and carry ammunition. "This is wrong," muttered to himself. "They're involving children. They're making weapons from tools. They're not following any rules of warfare." But he kept watching. He couldn't look away. Captain gathered the remaining defenders. Only 18 could still fight effectively. Many were wounded but refused to stay down. One soldier named had lost his left hand but held his rifle with his right. Another, a woman named Bora, had burns across her face but could still see and shoot. "Listen to me," said to her small group. "We can't win this fight by standard means. We need to make them bleed for every meter. We need to make them afraid. They think we're weak because we feel emotion. Show them that our emotions make us stronger." The soldiers nodded. They checked their weapons and said goodbye to loved ones. Some wrote short messages on paper and gave them to civilians to keep safe, just in case. They attacked at midday when the sun was highest and hottest. They came in organized waves, learning from their first battle. They avoided the obvious trap points. They used ranged weapons to suppress the human positions. It didn't matter. The humans had planned for this. Modified mining equipment activated. Industrial crushers closed on groups of. Acid sprayers melted through their armor. The humans used the terrain, the buildings, everything around them. Notice something else. The humans were talking to each other constantly, not just tactical information. They encouraged each other. They made jokes even while bullets flew past them. One soldier told another about his daughter's birthday next week. Another talked about the meal she wanted to eat when this was over. They were building something. Bonds, connections. Each word made them stronger, more committed to protecting each other. They pushed harder. They broke through the outer defenses. Hand-to-hand fighting began in the streets. The humans were smaller and weaker physically. They should have been crushed. But they fought with tools, with tricks, with desperation. A civilian used a welding torch as a flamethrower. Another dropped a heavy mining container on a group of warriors from above. Everywhere looked, humans were improvising, adapting, creating new tactics in real time. Commander lost his left arm when a blade cut through it. The medics rushed to him, but he pushed them away. "I can still fight. I can still lead. Save the medicine for people who can't keep going." He wrapped the stump himself, gave himself an injection for the pain, and picked up his rifle with his remaining hand. He continued giving orders, his voice never losing its calm strength. Felt that strange sensation in his chest again. His people, though, would have replaced a commander who was that badly injured. It was logical. A wounded leader was less effective. But the humans fought harder when they saw still standing. His wound didn't make them lose hope. It made them angry. It made them determined. As evening approached, Captain gave a signal. The humans began singing. It was a war song from their ancient history, something from a place called Korea on there. Didn't understand the words, but he felt the power in them. The sound carried across the battlefield. They hesitated. They had never heard anything like this. Warriors didn't sing. Warriors killed or died. Young's voice came over the radio, calm and proud. "Trap is ready, Captain. Just tell me when." "Wait for my signal," responded. "Let them commit fully." The commander, seeing the humans concentrated in the central colony area, ordered a full assault. Every warrior charged at once, thinking to overwhelm the defenders with pure numbers. That's what the humans wanted. Now screamed. Triggered the explosives. The entire mining network beneath the colony detonated in a synchronized chain reaction. The ground itself erupted. Tunnels collapsed. Buildings that the humans had already evacuated fell into sinkholes. The carefully placed charges created a perfect kill zone. 400 warriors died in 10 seconds. The explosion was so large that ship, high in orbit, detected the seismic activity. He watched the mushroom clouds of dust rise from the planet's surface. When the dust cleared, he saw a massive crater where part of the colony used to be. The humans had destroyed their own home. They had sacrificed their buildings, their mining equipment, their livelihood, just to hurt the enemy. His hands trembled as he recorded this. Humans display willingness to sacrifice strategic resources for tactical advantage. They destroyed their own colony infrastructure to eliminate enemy forces. This suggests they value defeating the enemy over preserving their own assets. Conclusion: humans are not defending. They are seeking maximum enemy casualties regardless of cost to themselves. The surviving, shocked and disorganized, pulled back. They had started with 2,000 warriors. Now they had fewer than 900. The humans had fewer than 15 soldiers still able to fight. But they were retreating. The humans were not. Watched and stand together in the ruins of their colony. Both were covered in blood, dirt, and burns. Around them, the few remaining defenders and many wounded civilians gathered. 2 more days, said quietly. The Indomitable arrives in 2 more days. We've held them off for 1 day. We can do 2 more. What if we can't? A civilian asked, his voice shaking. Looked at the man with eyes that seemed ancient despite his relatively young face. Then we make sure they remember what it costs to attack humans. We make sure they regret ever coming here. We make them pay with so much blood that they'll think twice before threatening any human colony ever again. The others nodded. They understood. They weren't fighting to survive anymore. They were fighting to send a message written in the enemy's blood. As night fell again, the humans set new traps, repositioned their wounded, and prepared for another day of impossible war. Added to his report, humans do not fight for victory in the traditional sense. They fight for revenge. They fight for principle. They fight to inflict maximum pain on their enemies. Request permission to intervene and stop this battle. The level of violence is escalating beyond acceptable parameters. But his superiors the request. They wanted to see what humans were truly capable of. They wanted to watch until the end. Realized with growing horror that he was watching the birth of a legend. These humans would probably die, but their story would spread across the galaxy, and species everywhere would learn to fear the creatures who destroyed their own homes just to make their enemies bleed. On the 3rd day, salvation arrived. The human warship Indomitable dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system. 3 smaller destroyer ships flanked it. Sensors detected them immediately. He felt relief, though he wasn't sure why. These weren't his people, but he had watched the colonists suffer for 3 days. He had seen them fight beyond all reason. Part of him wanted them to live. The ships accelerated toward the planet, intercepted their communications. A woman's voice, cold and professional, spoke to the fleet in orbit. This is Captain of the human warship Indomitable. You are hereby ordered to withdraw from this system immediately. You have 1 hour to comply. They had 6 bioships in orbit, full of warriors and weapons. They outnumbered the human ships. Their commander sent a reply full of clicking confidence. Foolish humans, we have already killed most of your colony. We hold 32 prisoners. If you attack, we will execute them all. Leave now or watch your people die. Waited for the human response. Surely they would negotiate. They would try to save the prisoners. That's what civilized species did. Captain's voice came back, and it made scales go cold. You have just made the last mistake your species will ever make. By threatening human prisoners, you have forfeited any chance of mercy. We are now at war, not a skirmish, not a battle, war. And you will learn what that word means to humanity. The human ships attacked before the hour was up. Had studied hundreds of space battles. He considered himself an expert. What he saw now redefined his understanding of warfare. The human ships didn't try to destroy the fleet quickly. They could have. Their weapons were more advanced than intelligence had suggested. Instead, they systematically disabled each bioship's engines first, then their communications, then their weapons. They were trapping them, making sure none could escape. This is Indomitable to fleet, broadcasted. You wanted to threaten our people. Now face the consequences. Every ship attempting to flee will be destroyed. Every ship that surrenders will be boarded and all prisoners released. You have 5 minutes to decide. 2 ships tried to run. The human destroyers cut them apart with precise weapons fire. The explosions lit up the orbital space like new stars. The remaining 4 ships surrendered. Human Marines boarded each ship within minutes, listened to their radio chatter. They moved through the bioships with brutal efficiency, freeing prisoners and securing warriors. Any resistance was met with overwhelming force. Below on the planet, the ground commander received the news. His fleet was gone. No reinforcements were coming. No escape was possible. He had one card left to play: the prisoners. Captain's next transmission went to the planet's surface. Ground forces, this is your final warning. Release all human prisoners unharmed and surrender. You will be treated according to the laws of war. Refuse, and we will show you why the universe will learn to fear humanity. The commander made his choice. He ordered his warriors to execute 5 prisoners as a show of strength. Watched through his sensors as 5 human colonists were killed. He expected negotiations. He expected threats. He expected something other than what happened next. 500 human Marines launched from the Indomitable in drop pods. They hit the planet's surface like meteors. They landed right in the middle of the positions. This is major to all units. Rules of engagement have changed. The executed prisoners. Kill any warrior who resists. Accept surrender from those who lay down arms immediately. But any unit that harmed prisoners receives no mercy. Am I understood? 500 voices confirmed. Understood, sir. The battle that followed wasn't a battle. It was a demonstration. The human Marines fought like nothing had seen. They moved in perfect coordination. They used weapons that seemed designed specifically to kill warriors. They had studied their enemy. They knew every weakness. But it was more than tactics. It was rage channeled into pure military precision. Major led the main assault. His unit fought through 800 warriors to reach the building where prisoners were held. They didn't stop. They didn't slow down. They fought for 14 hours without rest. When they reached the prisoners, they found that 15 more had been executed. The warriors responsible were in the same room, guarding the remaining survivors. Those warriors tried to surrender when they saw the humans. His voice over the radio was quiet and final. No. His unit eliminated every warrior in that room. Then they carried out the surviving prisoners with gentle hands. Watched a human Marine named carry a wounded colonist on his back while still fighting off attackers. Another Marine, a woman called Ara, shielded civilians with her own body and took 3 wounds that should have killed her. She kept fighting until every civilian was safe. The remaining, seeing the fury of the human response, began surrendering in large groups. They dropped their weapons and made signs of submission. Most of the human Marines accepted these surrenders. But not all. The units that had executed prisoners found no mercy. The humans had somehow marked them, identified them. Those specific warriors were given no chance to surrender. It was ruthless. It was targeted. It was terrifying. Captain, wounded and exhausted from 3 days of defending the colony, met Major when he finally secured the area. They saluted each other with perfect military precision. The colony is secure, Captain reported. 47 colonists survived, 153 dead. We've avenged them. His eyes were hard. Did we? Will revenge bring them back? No, admitted. But the galaxy will know. Touch humans and we will come. We will always come, and we will make you pay. Commander, missing an arm and covered in bandages, walked among the surviving colonists. He stopped at each person. He learned their names. He asked about their families. When he found out that Young had survived, he hugged her with his remaining arm and cried. You saved us all, he told her. Your trap bought us time. Your bravery inspired us. Thank you. The teenager who had rigged an entire mining colony to explode just nodded. She looked older now. War had aged her. Captain came down to the planet's surface to meet with the survivors. She walked through the ruins of the colony within. She saw the crater where Strap had killed 400 enemies. She saw the where Young had made his stand. "You held for 3 days against impossible odds," said quietly. 40 defenders against 2,000 enemies, and you won. "We didn't win," corrected her, his voice rough. "We survived, there's a difference." "No," replied, looking at the battlefield. "You won. You showed the galaxy what happens when humans are pushed too far. You showed them that we don't break. We bend, we bleed, we suffer, but we don't break." The survivors, now prisoners, were loaded onto transport ships. They would face trial for war crimes. The ones who had executed prisoners would face harsher judgment. But the message was sent. The battle was over. Sat in his ship, compiling his final observations of the battle. His hands shook as he typed. Human response to prisoner execution complete. Human military capability severely underestimated. Human willingness to escalate unlimited. Human capacity for both mercy and ruthlessness unprecedented. They spare those who surrender but show no mercy to those who harm civilians. They follow rules of war but enforce them absolutely. Conclusion: humans are not like other species. They do not fight for territory or resources primarily. They fight for principles. They fight for revenge. They fight for each other. Recommend immediate diplomatic contact. Recommend against any hostile action. Humanity is a species that should not be made an enemy. Pause, then added one final note. I have observed many species go to war. I have seen empires rise and fall, but I have never seen anything like what humans did here. They turned a defensive battle into a demonstration of power. They showed restraint and brutality in equal measure. The galaxy needs to understand. Humans are persistence predators on a galactic scale. They will chase you across stars. They will never forget. And they will never, ever stop until their justice is served. Below, the humans gathered their dead for burial. They sang songs of mourning. They cried for their losses. But they also stood tall, knowing they had protected their own. Knowing they had sent a message that would echo across the galaxy. And in the ruins of the colony, a memorial was already being planned. 153 names would be carved in stone, and at the top, one simple phrase: they stood, they fought, they won. The battle was over, but education about humanity was just beginning. The human ship stayed in orbit for a week. They helped rebuild what could be rebuilt and evacuated those who wanted to leave. Watched everything from his observation post. He expected the humans to celebrate their victory. He expected pride and triumph. Instead, he saw mourning. The survivors gathered in what remained of the colony's central square. 153 bodies lay in neat rows, each covered with a human flag. The colonists stood in silence as names were read aloud. After each name, someone who knew the fallen would tell a story about them. When they spoke's name, his sister came forward. She was only 16 years old. Through tears, she told everyone about how her brother had wanted to be a teacher, how he loved children and had promised to return home after his military service, how he had written her letters every week. He didn't want to be a warrior, she said, her voice breaking. He just wanted to protect people, and that's what he did. He protected all of us. Felt something wet on his face. He touched it with confusion, tears. He was crying, an officer crying for creatures he had only observed through sensors. The humans buried their dead with full honors. They played music. They fired weapons into the sky as a salute. Commander, still wounded and weak, refused medical evacuation until every civilian was treated first. The soldiers can wait, he told the doctors. Civilians first, always. Captain watched these ceremonies from near her ship. She stood next to Major, both of them in perfect parade uniforms despite having just finished a brutal battle. They held for 3 days, said quietly. 40 soldiers, 40, against 2,000. I've never seen anything like it. Neither have I, replied, and I've been fighting wars for 20 years. On the 3rd day after the battle, something unexpected happened. Human Marines captured spy satellite. Within an hour, they traced its signals back to his ship. Panicked, he prepared to flee. But before he could activate his engines, a human shuttle docked with his vessel. Marines boarded with weapons ready. He raised his hands in surrender. I am a neutral observer. I have diplomatic immunity. I was only watching. The Marine commander, a stern woman named, looked at him with cold eyes. Captain wants to speak with you. You can come willingly or we can drag you. Choose. Chose to walk. They brought him to the Indomitable to Captain's private office. He expected interrogation, maybe torture. Instead, offered him a chair and a drink. Of the Dominion, said, reading from a data pad. Reconnaissance officer, assigned to observe first contact situations. You've been watching us for 3 days. I am a neutral observer, repeated. I have rights under galactic law. I'm not going to hurt you, said calmly. I want to talk. You've been watching humans fight. You've seen what we can do, but you don't understand us, not yet. She activated a holographic display. Images filled the room, ancient pictures from human history, battles, wars, soldiers fighting in terrible conditions. This is the Battle of Thermopylae, explained. 300 soldiers held a narrow pass against thousands. They died to the last man, but they bought time for their people. That was 2,000 years ago. More images appeared. This is the siege of Leningrad, a city surrounded, starving, frozen. They could have surrendered. Instead, they ate wallpaper paste and fought for 900 days. Image after image, war after war. Vietnam, Korea, World War I, World War II, the American Revolution. We have been fighting for our entire recorded history, not decades, not centuries, 10,000 years of continuous warfare. Stared at the images. His mind struggled to process. 10,000 years, that's impossible. You would have destroyed yourselves. We almost did, admitted. Many times. We created weapons that could end all life on our planet. Nuclear bombs, biological warfare, chemical weapons that melt flesh. We stood at the edge of extinction more than once. But you didn't use them, asked. Oh, we used them, said darkly. We dropped nuclear weapons on cities. We released plagues. We gassed each other in trenches. We learned every horror of warfare the hard way, by doing it, by suffering it, by surviving it. She changed the display to show more recent images. Human Marines in training, obstacle courses, combat simulations, survival training. We train every soldier to fight past exhaustion, past fear, past injury. We teach them that surrender is a choice, not an inevitability. We drill into them that leaving a fellow soldier behind is worse than death. Do you understand what that means? Shook his head slowly. It means we have an entire species that has been shaped by warfare. We're not warriors because we're naturally aggressive. We're warriors because we've had to be. For 10,000 years we fought each other. We learned every trick, every tactic, every strategy. And now we've turned all that knowledge outward to the galaxy. Engineer entered the office. He was in a wheelchair now, his legs paralyzed from his injuries, but his eyes were sharp and intelligent. Captain asked me to explain some concepts to you, said to. Have you heard of a Pyrrhic victory? No, admitted. It's a victory that costs so much that it might as well be a defeat. We have a king from ancient times named Pyrrhus. He won battles but lost so many soldiers that he said, another such victory and I am undone. We understand that winning isn't always about surviving. Sometimes it's about making the enemy pay so much that they never attack you again. Pulled up more data. Scorched earth policy. If we can't defend territory, we destroy everything before retreating. We deny the enemy any advantage. We burn our own cities rather than let them be captured. That's insane, whispered. It's survival, corrected. We also have a concept called mutually assured destruction. If someone attacks us with world-ending weapons, we make sure they die too. Everyone loses. but at least the enemy doesn't win. Felt sick? You would destroy yourselves just to hurt your enemy. If necessary, said simply. We have a saying, if I'm going down, I'm taking you with me. We mean it. Captain leaned forward. But here's the important part. We choose not to use our worst weapons. We have biological warfare that could exterminate species. We have nuclear arsenals that could crack planets. We have weapons you can't even imagine. But we keep them locked away. We use proportional force. We follow rules of war. Why? Asked. If you have such power, why not use it? Because we know where it leads, said quietly. We've walked that road before. We've seen what total war looks like. And we decided that there are some lines we won't cross unless absolutely forced to. That restraint isn't weakness. It's the most terrifying thing about us. I don't understand, said. We could have destroyed explained. We could have eliminated their entire species, but we didn't. We accepted their surrender. We're giving them trials under law. We're showing mercy. But make no mistake, that mercy is a choice. And if someone pushes us too far, if someone threatens human extinction, we will use every weapon we have. We will commit total warfare, and we won't stop until our enemy is dust. The medic brought in tea. She served it with gentle hands, the same hands that had treated wounds for 3 days without rest. We're not monsters, said softly. We don't enjoy killing. Every death in that battle hurt us, but we will kill if we have to. We will do terrible things to protect what we love. That's the human way. We care deeply, and that caring makes us dangerous. Took the tea with shaking hands. He looked at these humans, these creatures who could show such kindness and such brutality. What do you want from me? He asked finally. Go back to your people, said. Tell them what you saw. Tell them that humanity is not their enemy, but we should never be made one. Tell them we follow the rules, but we enforce them absolutely. Tell them that we're willing to talk, to trade, to be friends. But also tell them what happens if they threaten us. They won't believe me, said. They'll think I'm exaggerating. Then show them your recordings, replied. Show them holding a position for 6 hours. Show them's trap. Show them commander leading with one arm. Show them what 40 humans did against 2,000. Let the evidence speak. Was escorted back to his ship. As he prepared to leave, he looked down at the planet one last time. The humans were already rebuilding, already planning to stay. They had lost so much, but they weren't leaving. They were stubborn, persistent, unbreakable. He began his journey home, his mind full of images and data, and he knew that nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same. Humanity had announced itself not with words, but with deeds, and the announcement was written in blood and courage. Stood before the Dominion Council, his scales pale with stress. Around him sat the 12 most powerful leaders of his species, each one a master of strategy and warfare. They listened to his report with growing disbelief. You expect us to believe that 40 humans held against 2,000, Council Leader R said, his voice dripping with doubt. They are seasoned warriors. Humans are newcomers to space. I have recordings, replied. He played the footage of Stand. 6 hours of continuous combat, 47 confirmed kills, fighting until his last breath. The council watched in silence. When the video ended, several members shifted uncomfortably. One exceptional warrior proves nothing, another council member said. Every species has heroes. Then watch this, showed them the explosion. Trap, 400 enemies eliminated in seconds, the humans destroying their own colony just to hurt their attackers. This is madness, R muttered. No, said firmly. This is humanity. They don't fight like us. They don't fight for logical reasons. They fight because they care about each other. They fight because they're angry. They fight because they refuse to quit. And that makes them more dangerous than any weapon. He pulled up more data, charts, analysis, patterns he had noticed. Humans display 5 key principles in warfare that make them uniquely dangerous, began. First, emotional warfare. They form deep bonds with each other. Those bonds make them fight exponentially harder. A human fighting for themselves is dangerous. A human fighting for their family is unstoppable. He showed footage of the colonists singing before battle, of Commander walking among his people, of soldiers crying for their fallen and then fighting harder. Second, persistence predation. In nature, humans evolved as endurance hunters. They would chase prey for days until it collapsed from exhaustion. They bring this same mindset to war. They don't stop. They don't tire. They outlast enemies mentally and physically. The fought in shifts. The humans fought for 3 days straight. His voice grew harder. Third, escalation dominance. Whatever force you use against humans, they will match it and add more. They brought 500 warriors. Humans fought harder. They brought 2,000. Humans destroyed 400 with one trap and called for military support. If you push humans, they will always push back harder. The council members were leaning forward now, paying close attention. Fourth, revenge doctrine. Harm a human and every human becomes your enemy. It's not logical, it's tribal. When 5 prisoners were executed, the entire human military response changed. Warriors who would have accepted surrender killed without mercy. They marked the units responsible and eliminated them. They made it personal. Pulled up the final data. Fifth and most terrifying, total war capability. Humans have weapons they choose not to use. Nuclear bombs that can destroy cities. Biological warfare that can eliminate species. Weapons that can crack planets. They keep these locked away and use proportional force. But if truly threatened, if their species faces extinction, they will use everything. And they won't stop until their enemy is dust. The room fell silent. "You're saying they're a threat," R said slowly. "No," corrected. "I'm saying they should never be made an enemy. There's a difference. They're willing to talk, to trade, to be friends. But cross them, threaten them, harm them, and you unleash something the galaxy has never seen before." Before the council could respond, an aide rushed in with urgent news. "They have launched a retaliatory strike. A colony world called. 10,000 human civilians are dead." The room erupted in chaos. The council members argued about what humanity's response would be. Some thought humans would sue for peace. Others expected diplomatic negotiations. Knew better, they're going to war, total war. He was right. Within hours, news reached the council. The human fleet had mobilized. 50 warships, led by the Indomitable, had jumped to the access the human broadcasts. The entire galaxy was watching now. Captain stood on the bridge of her ship with Major and the surviving colonists from the mining colony beside her. Commander still missing an arm. Captain but standing tall. Young, no longer a child but a warrior. "People of the Swarm's voice rang out across space. You attacked a human mining colony. We defended ourselves and accepted your surrender. We gave you trials under law. We showed mercy. And you responded by murdering 10,000 civilians on." Her voice grew cold. "You have violated every law of civilized warfare. You have proven that you cannot be trusted with peace. Therefore, you are given one final choice. Surrender your leadership for trial or face total war. You have 24 hours to decide." The leadership refused. They thought their defenses would protect them. They thought the humans were bluffing. They were wrong. What followed wasn't a battle. It was a systematic dismantling of an empire. The humans didn't attack the. Instead, they jumped to every military installation across their 300 worlds. They didn't target civilians. They didn't bomb cities. They only destroyed military assets. Shipyards, training facilities, weapons factories, command centers. The humans identified every single military target and eliminated it with precision strikes. It took 6 months. Watched horrified and amazed as humanity demonstrated total war. They didn't rest. They didn't slow down. Shift after shift, human ships appeared at worlds, destroyed military targets, and jumped away before reinforcements arrived. The military tried to fight back, but they were fighting an enemy that never stopped, never forgot, and never forgave. Not a single civilian was harmed, reported to the council. The humans could have destroyed cities, could have eliminated the species. Instead, they surgically removed the ability to wage war. They left the civilians alive but made sure the military ceased to exist. They surrendered unconditionally after losing their entire military across 300 worlds. The humans accepted the surrender. They brought leaders to trial for war crimes. The trials were public, fair, and thorough. The galaxy watched every moment. Was summoned to give testimony at the trials. He stood before the human judges and told everything he had witnessed. When asked for his professional opinion, he spoke clearly. Humans follow rules of warfare, but they enforce those rules absolutely. They show mercy to those who surrender but no mercy to those who violate the laws of war. They are willing to negotiate, to compromise, to seek peace, but they are also willing to fight total war if necessary. They learned this lesson at terrible cost. After the trials, the Galactic Assembly called an emergency session. Representatives from hundreds of species gathered to discuss humanity. Was asked to present his findings to the entire assembly. He stood before thousands of aliens and spoke the truth. Humanity is not the strongest species, they are stronger. Humanity is not the fastest, they can move through space faster. Humanity is not the cerebral collective has superior intellect. He paused, letting that sink in. But humans have something none of us possess. They have the willingness to endure any suffering, sacrifice anything, and fight beyond all reason to protect what they love. They are persistence predators on a galactic scale. If you fight them, they will chase you across stars, across centuries if needed. And they will never, ever stop. He showed them the footage, all of it. Stand, the trap, the 3-day defense, the systematic dismantling of the military, the mercy shown to civilians and the ruthlessness shown to war criminals. We have a choice, continued. We can make humanity our friends or we can make them our enemies. If we choose friendship, we gain allies who will fight beside us with loyalty and courage. If we choose hostility, we face an enemy that will never stop hunting us. The assembly voted. It wasn't even close. Humanity was granted full membership in the galactic community and a permanent seat on the Security Council. Traveled to Earth for the ceremony. He met with human leaders, with soldiers, with civilians. He visited museums that showed 10,000 years of human warfare. He read books about human philosophy and ethics. And he understood finally. Humans weren't warriors because they loved war. They were warriors because they loved peace enough to fight for it. They were dangerous because they cared. Their emotions didn't make them weak. Their emotions made them the most dangerous species in the galaxy. On his last day on Earth, visited the memorial that had been built for the mining colony defenders. 153 names carved in stone. He stood beside Commander and Captain, both of them decorated heroes now. "Why did you fight so hard?" asked them. "You knew you would probably die. Why not surrender?" Looked at the names on the wall, his missing arm a permanent reminder of the battle. Because this was our home, these were our people, and we had something worth dying for. But was it worth all the pain, pressed, all the suffering? Answered this time. We didn't fight because we're fearless. We fought because we were terrified, terrified of failing our people, terrified of letting the enemy win. Fear doesn't make us weak. Fear makes us dangerous because we fight through it anyway. Looked up at the memorial. At the top, carved in both human languages and galactic common, was a simple phrase. They stood, they fought, they won. He returned to his ship one final time. As he prepared to leave Earth's orbit, he sent one last message to the Council. I have completed my observation of humanity. My conclusion, they are exactly what the galaxy needs and exactly what it should fear. They will be the greatest allies or the worst enemies. Treat them with respect. Honor your agreements with them. Never ever threaten them, because if you do, you will learn why the universe fears their might. Far below on Earth, in 1,000 cities, billions of humans went about their daily lives. They laughed, they cried, they loved, they dreamed. They were ordinary beings doing ordinary things. But knew the truth now. Behind every human smile was the capacity for extraordinary courage. Behind every human heart was the willingness to fight beyond reason for what they believed in. They were teachers and engineers, doctors and farmers, artists and musicians. But when threatened, when their loved ones were endangered, when their homes were attacked, they became something else. They became humanity, and the galaxy would never be the same.